All right, we have Andrew MACLEOD on the line right now, I believe, Postmedia President and CEO. Mr. MACLEOD, thank you for the time.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit. We just got off the phone with Mitch Garber, talking about possibly a local ownership group. Before I go there, let's go to the announcement we started to read here, which is apparently the creation of this Community Advisory Council. What are they going to do? What's their responsibility?
Yeah, I think, look, ultimately this is about us working together with the community to create a more sustainable future for this institution. We care deeply about the Gazette. We care deeply about what we do here, which is essentially provide journalism and coverage to Montreal and many other cities around Canada. I think we all need to understand that this is a business, it's not a government utility, and we need to lift revenues, which means advertising and subscription revenues, and then we will start to grow again. We will start to add more journalistic coverage. That is the core, and we believe that by working with these community leaders and by harnessing this outpouring of support and passion for this institution, we can start to build this future together. So that's the goal of the Advisory Council.
So when you hear, we understand that Mitch Garber has been asked to join. I know you're only going to announce officially who's part of the advisory next week. But when you hear that there's some reticence on his part because he feels that he could be more effective if he were able to purchase the newspaper, what do you make of that, Mr. MACLEOD?
Well, Mitch sent me an email 2 weeks ago asking to speak. I set up a time to speak with him, and then he canceled the meeting. So I don't entirely understand what his objectives are. What I could tell you, and I'll be very transparent, it is very complicated for us to look at selling one institution in our network. And the reason for that is most services are now centralized. Mm-hmm. So, back 50 years ago, media companies were organized around publishers, and they had their own infrastructure, sales, finance, HR, and they were sort of standalone institutions. And so conglomerates would buy and sell papers, and those institutions would move around. Well, in the modern era, we've centralized all those functions. So we have a centralized sales, HR, business technology, finance functions. And so it's difficult for us to look at one piece of the network, let's call it the Gazette, and say, well, how would we sell that? Because you have to extricate that piece of the business from all of the shared services. So it's very complicated. Okay. It would take a great deal of time, and it's not an easy decision to embark on. We've not seen a credible offer, and we're not going to invest the time in something where it may not necessarily make sense.
So when you say a credible offer, I take that to mean a credible offer for the whole group. Would you even consider selling one part of that group, that part being the Montreal Gazette, if the offer was right?
Look, we're a business. We would consider anything that made sense. What I'm saying to you is, it would be an enormous amount of work on our part to do all the due diligence necessary to explore if that could make sense.
Okay.
And we're not going to do that work based on a press release in the marketplace. Let me put it to you that way.
Okay. But, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, backing up, regardless of who owns it, what is critical is that we work with the community and we start to course correct on some of the trends that we're seeing, not just in the Gazette, but in media companies in Canada and around the world. That's the real issue here. We need to build a sustainable future for these institutions.
All right, let me go back to something that we discussed with Mitch earlier on, and Mitch Garber was with us just after 3:30. He said it might be more interesting for a local buyers group here, for example, if part of what you were looking for here in setting up this Community Advisory Council was in fact in saying you're going to reconsider the cutting of 25% of the staff. That's almost 10 people at a 40-person staff at the Gazette. Is that something you are open to as a group or not?
It's something that I'm considering. Like I've taken into account what we're seeing from the community, and I want to meet with the advisory council. I want to get a sense for what they think we can do, and I think together what we need to do is figure out how we build a more sustainable future. And I know I'm being repetitive, but look, at the core, right now this conversation is around cuts. Cuts have occurred because revenues have declined, right? There's nothing we detest more than reducing staff and impacting our people. But I think everyone can understand, including your listeners, if revenues continue to decline, you have to adjust your cost base. So our mission, our goal, what we're passionate about is harnessing the outpouring of support from the community and figuring out ways where we can get increased revenue traction, whether it's businesses advertising, whether it's local citizens subscribing. That will build a sustainable future for this institution. And when we build that, we can start reinvesting in this market. This is what we want to be doing. We want to be reinvesting, adding journalists, adding more local coverage. That is powerful, and that's the place we want to get to.
That's great, and that's encouraging to hear. I just don't understand, why was it 25% here compared to 11% elsewhere for the cuts? That doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah, well, so we have a huge network, and we're not specific on specific numbers. I wouldn't over-rotate to percentages here and there. We'll be more clear, I would say, in the very near future. One thing I will tell you, though, and I think I've heard this from some community leaders, and you can hear this explicitly from me, there is no attempt in any way, shape, or form to target the Montreal Gazette. This is one of our most venerable institutions that we have enormous pride in. It goes back to the very foundation of the city of Montreal, hundreds of years. We care deeply for it. The Montreal newsroom, regardless of any cuts, will remain the third largest in the country, behind only Vancouver and Toronto. So it is a prized asset for us. We care deeply for it. We will continue to invest in it.
Mr. MACLEOD, we appreciate your frankness and also your time this afternoon as well. Hope we can chat again later with better news to report. Thanks so much.
Very good, sir. Have a both day.